Hey everybody, Roy here, and I really like going fast, especially in Last Epoch, because we need to run through big areas. So today I wanted to showcase a pretty special build, with which even Sentinel can go fast. It's Rive Void Knight. With Rive, the Void Knight can stack a pretty decent amount of movement speed, making melee gameplay much more comfortable. It also can do a lot of damage, because you can utilize Ecos together with a pretty big attack speed, and just heal yourself with Rive constantly. That way it's much easier to survive as well, and it makes the build an awesome all-rounder. Pushing corruption without any issue, I pushed around 6 or 700, however I'm sure the build can go up to 1000 and higher if needed. Let's go forward and I will be able to explain what you will need to build that and how exactly this build is going to work. So talking about how the build works, there's a few cool passives with the right skills that are going to make our character pretty strong. The most important one probably is Fog Lever. Fog Lever is going to give us additional effect of damage stats on two-handed weapon, plus 100%. It's going to literally double our void damage that we will be able to buff to our weapon, which is absolutely awesome. And we can also get Weapon Specialist, which is going to help us to stack Vitality to have damage based on that. And Temporal Warrior is also just amazing because it doubles Echo chance for Void Knights that use an Wraith. And that passive is pretty much going to raise our damage tremendously because we will have much more Echo chance. And we're constantly going to have Echos. The last but not the least is Focus Strike. Focus Strike will give Third Strike double crit chance and 50% of additional multiplier. That one is absolutely awesome because it's going to help us to stack criticals without even heavily investing in it. The build itself also can utilize additional techniques such as Sigils of Hope, Sigils of Despair for example, or Healing Hands which are going to be used as movement skill and work absolutely awesome. We also can get crazy amount of global attack speed from Warp Time or Volatile Reversal as well. All of that together with a pretty decent set of items, which is going to automate half of our stuff and make us pretty strong overall, especially against damage over time since we can still use Decayed Skull. And the last thing that are going to be there for build to work properly is the Dark Stride. Absolutely amazing boots that are going to provide us with increased movement speed per added melee void damage. Since we have a lot of melee void damage based on our weapon, we're going to run pretty fast. So the main component of going fast is just the Dark Stride. Dark Stride can give us increased movement speed per added melee void damage, and since we have a lot of melee void damage on our weapon, it's going to help us to run much faster. You can also roll increased movement speed on the Dark Stride by itself, and that will help you to run faster as well. We also have a pretty decent passive called the Dread. It's going to provide at least 15% of additional movement speed and going to help us tremendously to run faster. Another cool bonus is Volatile Reversal catching up. That's going to provide about 36 additional movement speed, pretty much raising our movement speed to 135 or even 140, which is absolutely amazing for such setup. So talking about how to boost the damage of the build. The most important part is to get very good apathy mode, especially with high tier melee void damage buffed in terms of legendary potential, because melee void damage from apathy mode going to be doubled because of our Wraith passive skills, and it's going to provide huge chunk of the damage of the build. So try to get that apathy mode with melee void damage, additional melee void damage as fast as possible. On top of that, it's also really recommended to get Orion Sun Seal, because it's going to make sure you always will have Sigils of Hope, which can help you with both damage and a little survivability as well. So the last part for the damage is pretty much stacking as many ways to get melee damage and void damage as possible. So for example, idols really help you a lot with that because they can provide for 90% increased melee void damage by itself together with critical strike multiplier for example. You can also roll a little critical strike chance on your amulets for example and void penetration here too. Getting chance to shred armor and chance to shred just void resistances from blessings are also very important. And the last part for the damage is pretty much an attack speed. Attack speed is going to help you tremendously, so try to stack it at least at the gloves, and if you can roll it to some other items, definitely go for it. So talking about our skills, the first and important set is Rive itself. For Rive, the most important passive is 4 Cleaver, because 4 Cleaver is going to give us effective damage stats on 200 weapon plus 100%, which is absolutely awesome. After that, we just need to go for Weapon Specialist here to get void damage per vitality when we are using an X, which is pretty nice too. So I also recommend to go Temporal Warrior because it will double Eco chance for the build, which is awesome and going to boost our DPS pretty significantly. And Focus Strike is also important, so just going 2 points here, 4 here and 1 here, it's definitely recommended because Third Strike double crit chance is awesome, especially combined with Concentration when we are receiving 8% of base crit chance for a Third Strike. Talking about Volatile Reversal, the most important part is just getting Harbinger of Dust as fast as possible. After that, Warp Time is recommended for more attack speed and catching up for more movement speed. I also recommend to go for Ancient Reversal because 2 more seconds of buffs is always good. For Healing Hands, we just need to take Ryan's Chariot because we're just going to use it as a movement skill together with Sun Shroud because that way we will be immune while we are running. And on top of that, we're pretty much going for Seraph Blade because that way it will be easier to deal at least some part of damage and heal ourselves much easier. 4 points to Cleric Hammer are definitely recommended too, and it's a great way to heal ourselves consistently. For Anomaly, I think the most important part is just getting Temporal Mastery and Time Lord. For Time Bubble, that can be attached to you, and 2 points to Manipulation for cast speed and attack speed. Mark of Rod is definitely a good bonus, however, I don't recommend to get more than 2 points in there, because it's just going to give 100% of increased void damage, and that's pretty much it. We don't need more duration than 2 seconds here. And instant cast borrow time is definitely mandatory for the build. And the Sigils of Hope. The most important part is just getting Sigils of Despair as fast as possible, and Tetragram for maximum sigils. Additional duration is definitely recommended because if you are going to use a ring such as Orion's Sun Seal, it will be much easier to keep them all up. I also recommend to get Word of Power because it can provide at least some percentage of damage because we are constantly recasting it with the ring. So it will be a pretty decent option. So talking about the items that we currently need. Decayed Skull is definitely recommended, just for armor mitigation applied to damage over time because we will need additional damage over time protection. Try to roll ASTR, Vitality and Health in there because all of those are pretty much good stats for the build. Titan's Heart is good as well, and if you can get increased health percentage here, it would be awesome. If you can also get ASTR, it would be really recommended too. For Dark Stride, we just get movement speed as high as we can and health, which is definitely a nice combination. For the gloves, I recommend to go for armor mitigation applied to damage over time again and melee attack speed. Perfectly, we need something around like tier 6 or tier 7, because it's going to help us with dealing more damage and spawning more ecos. So for the ring, void damage, ASTR, some health or endurance could be a very good option. Orion's Sun Seal is definitely recommended because it's going to help us to keep the sigils up at all times. Try to roll critical strike chance, ASTR and health. For Anchor of the Oblivion, I still recommend to use it just because of strength bonus and a lot of endurance on the item itself. For legendary potential, just try to roll ASTR or critical strike chance there. For the belt, Shatter chance is just so awesome, you don't need to pick anything else. If you can get health on top of that, it will be just perfect. And for Apathy Maw, I would say melee void damage and additional void damage or void penetration would be best option. For Amulet, I recommend to go for critical strike chance, void penetration, chance to shred armor and health. That probably would be a best combination possible. Talking about idols, most of the time we need to get vitality and resistance also. For example, vitality and physical resistance, vitality and physical again, and here's vitality and poison. So just to try stack those. Big idols is pretty much critical strike multiplier with a Rive, which is awesome, and armor, for example. Or you can go for melee void damage, which is definitely a pretty cool bonus too, together with critical strike multiplier with Rive. All of those are going to be pretty good for the belt. Small ones, I just recommend to take resistances and armor, because that's pretty much what the belt requires at the moment. So talking about the passives. One of the most important ones is time and faith. We need at least 4 points here, however if you want even better survivability you can go for 5. Just to get health gain percentage and portion of our missing health every time when we are using a Rive. We're also taking maximum amount of points for Fearless because we really need to stack vitality. And together with all of that, we're just passing for the Blade Master, because Blade Master can provide 30% of additional attack and cast speed. We're mostly focusing on attack speed here for axe attacks. It's going to help us tremendously with the damage itself, and it's definitely mandatory to take that. Going forward in Paladin, we're just taking Defiance, Valor, and Blinding Light. Blinding Light is here just to blind enemies, and Valor for health, and Defiance providing elemental resistances. We just need all of those passives to get Sigil of Hope. That's the main reason why we are even taking those. Going for Void Knight. The most important part is to get to Avatar of Regret as fast as possible. We're also taking Dread at least 11 points, however you can go for 15 for even more movement speed, because that way we will be able to go fast. Eternal Form is just an amazing passive too, so just get it as fast as possible for increased health, which is just absolutely awesome. And Time Legion together with Echo Strikes going to help us with chances for Ecos. At the start we are putting 6 points to Abyssal Endurance, 2 to Temporal Corruption and 3 to Void Blades. I would say 5 points to World Eater is pretty much enough to get enough Leech, however if you feel like you need more resistances, you could just draw points from Void Blades and Temporal Corruption and get Abyssal Endurance and 1 point to the World Eater instead. We're also trying to take as many things here as possible just to get more bonuses from Void Corruption. And Essence of the End, in my opinion, just worth it because it can still help you with 15% increased Void damage and increased melee damage while we are just running through Ecos, which is pretty nice to be honest. So talking about the blessings, the most important part is to get plus 20% for all resistances as fast as possible. After that, I recommend to target chance to apply Shred Void resistance on hit, because it's a very good damage related blessing. We can also get increased stun chance just to feel better while we are fighting, and increased armor here together with increased armor here are going to help us a lot with boosting our armor as high as possible, because it's going to protect the character pretty well. So that's been my Void Knight Rive build, which been my last build for Last Epoch 1.1 that time. It's been pretty fun, and I hope you will be able to enjoy the build as well. Thank you very much for watching, subscribe for more RPG content, and see you next time.